Gloria in excelsis Deo.
Gloria in excelsis Deo.
Hello, everyone.
Greetings. Greetings. Welcome to the Stream of Truth. I'm Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook.
And I'm Sean Kelly.
And today this is exciting. It's episode 90 of our Stream of Truth. So I just sort of want to pause and thank Spirit for guiding us every week on this beautiful project, and to thank Mr. Sean Kelly for doing this with me. And
it's my pleasure.
Wow, 90. That seems like a lot.
It is, yeah. It's a lot, and also the number 9 is pretty significant.
Number 9 is what? Completion.
Yeah. So I just want to. Wow, that's pretty cool that we've done 90 episodes. And so I think first we're going to talk about duality, because we all have to realize that we're all separate people and individuals, and we have to know how separate we are from each other, right? April Fools! Yeah. April Fools!
Oh, that was good! You just did an April Fool's joke.
Jamie gave me the idea. She reminded me that it was April Fool's.
That is so cute. I love that. And it's hilarious that your April Fool's joke is around duality.
I'm such a nerd.
It's so spiritually nerdy. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, so today's topic is Union with Your Twin Flame, part 4. We can just keep going on and on and on. Maybe there'll be 80 parts to this.
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to start by saying that, just to reiterate in case people haven't seen the other ones. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome to the stream. If you haven't been here before, we're happy to have you here. The twin flame union isn't so much a union with anyone else. There is no one else. So the union's really with yourself, and you're just kind of doing it together. And so what we're going to talk about today is sort of, I think, the importance of unity consciousness, and how, I guess, a relationship or your partnership helps move towards that. And then also what the importance is. Actually, we'll talk a little bit. I don't like to raise people up onto pedestals. I don't like people to think they're better than others or anything. So I'm going to be kind of careful probably how I talk about this, but there is a benefit to the collective matrix of the consciousness around the grid of the earth that will be facilitated by basically souls that can see other or human expressions that can see other human forms as part of themselves. When they reach that vibration, they contribute a lot to the field. So that's part of the draw for this type of ascension path, is because it's the individuals that are trying to together both choose a union state or a oneness mentality that forms the beginning of the social mind or the social memory complex. So in the transition state into the next density of consciousness, we're gonna find this to be more and more and more applicable, and we need people that are going to try to be literal physical expressions of the one mind together. So, that's I guess how I see what we're going to talk about. And is there anything that you wanted to bring up there?
Well, you know me and my lists.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone can see this, but yeah, I have a million things, it seems like, I always want to talk about. So yeah, let's just start with those 2 amazing points, and we'll see what we have time for. And maybe there'll be a part 5 next week. Who knows? We'll see how we are guided. But yeah, let's start off with really something that is so dear to you. And I know you're here to really bring this onto our planet, is unity consciousness.
Yeah. I think it's the only thing I care about, because it's the only thing that is beyond the other illusory things. So it's sort of like I see it as kind of the ultimate truth that a human can see. That once they see this, then the rest of the stuff is like, oh, this is just an illusion of the separation of the one. Whatever I'm looking at, that's what it is. So that state helps facilitate peace. There has to be a certain level of peace and acceptance in order to achieve that state, though. So in order to do that, we have to remove barriers that reject reality, basically. So the perfect thing about all of this is that essentially by healing ourselves and basically removing blockages that we have in our lower three chakras, we will end up being able to see or more fully experience the light, basically. The three chakras are sort of like a cascading light filter. You could think of it. The light shines upwards from the negative pole in Malkuth, or the red ray energy center. It shines up this way, up the Kundalini, and it gets blocked by varying chunks of fear, you could basically say, in the chakras that distort the light. And then so the root chakra distorts it first, then the sacral chakra distorts it more, then the solar plexus distorts it further, and then it reaches the heart, where the heart will shut out the fear parts. And so that's why your heart will be semi-open or mostly closed in a moment, or wide open. If it's wide open, then basically you're feeling entirely unthreatened and at peace. And then if it's closed, you're feeling some type of fear or resistance to reality. And then the next chakras, the opening the heart, allows you to then open up the throat, the indigo ray, and then the crown will sort of draw in, and then the Kundalini energy comes up and meets the divine energy coming in through the crown, and then you have explosion. And that's what they would call a Kundalini awakening. So you don't tend to want to work towards the Kundalini awakening itself, because that focus on that goal is going to distort and lead you sort of astray in all of your temptation and hanging on to like your drive, like the accomplishment mentality will kind of hold you back a little bit. You don't have to actually try at all to have that experience. You don't have to have that experience in the explosive way that I mentioned. It can be a gradual kind of thing too. So I think I'm trying to think about how to relate this to divine union. I would probably say that I was saying that there's two people looking at each other as one, right? That, like, once we can do that, then it becomes obvious to us that we can actually do that with all people. Like, as we open up, we start to realize that this other individual person, although they're very special to us, they are part of the one with us that everyone's a part of. Everyone's invited to this party. We can't, we can't have equality and say, but not you. We can't have unity and say, but not that. It doesn't make any sense, right? So we're not able to reject anything as valid, essentially. It doesn't mean we have to condone or participate in things that just feel unresonant, but we have, or things that don't resonate, but we have to recognize that too is an expression of the creator, that too is perhaps distorted into fear. Perhaps, the energy centers, like I said, distort the light into fear. Then the entity does stuff that's hurtful to people, right? But that's all they're doing. And the reason that they're doing that is because they're in fear and distorted. And so we have to, basically, it's a major lesson in forgiveness and acceptance, self-acceptance, and then also accepting your partner and just accepting basically everything. Surrender and acceptance, humble surrender. Like, forgive me, Lord, I have no idea what is going on. I don't know anything. And in my unknowing, or not in my unknowing, I guess, but although, yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're unknowing yourself as what you thought you were, and then knowing yourself as all that is. And it's very possible to do it. It's very attainable for any person. People there are bodies here that are dual activated. They're going to struggle more with this. I'm not sure what their experience will be, I have a dual activated body with a yellow ray activation and the heart center activation. And I don't know how to sense or tell in others what their bodies are. I don't have that sensitivity. But I do believe that they'll be able to see unity that way too. I don't think it's relegated to just certain body types or anything. So,
you think it's possible for anyone on the earth to realize unity consciousness?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. There's the reason I brought that up is because I think with the heart, the fourth dual activated body, it's the fourth density light body it's a hybrid body. So they're more, you could basically say that vessel would have more direct power for manifestation purposes or for drawing experience and processing experience. Like when they see non-dual reality or non-linear thought, non-linear experience, they'll begin to be kind of like a quantum computer. Whereas a singly activated with the yellow ray, the chemical body, that's not the hybrid light fourth density body, they'll probably have an experience of unity, but not as much of the magic won't feel quite as pungent, or that's not the right word, intense. It won't feel quite as intense, I don't think. But I don't know. That's just my theory. But I do think that everyone can see it. And just aligning to it cognitively, like saying that's the first kind of, all I'm ever trying to convince people is that the ultimate truth is that we're one being here expressing itself. So anyone, and for everyone to just kind of get that. So anyone labeling anything about God, deities, ETs, anything that they are saying, oh, look at what controls us. No, that's not how the universe works. So the importance of the unity concept is there is no separate will from the creator. The creator's will is everything. And in order for basically unity to be real, that has to be true. And it's not like a concept like where people say, oh, we're all connected by energy. We are, of course, but we are literally one being experiencing itself. So you could almost think of us as like, I don't know, neurons in the brain or receptors maybe. And we send messages to each other inside of the giant brain of the one. You could think of it kind of like that, like we're a part of the whole. But all of the separation we see between each other is just illusion to keep us into story, right? To keep us sort of learning of ourselves. Otherwise, there'd be nothing really to learn. And this is why we actually veil this way, is because if we knew God directly and we're here, which we've done that in the past, that's happened in the past. There's been, instead of having third density bodies that were complex, we had third density bodies that knew themselves. And guess what they did? They just played. They played and they sang and they danced and they played. Because you can imagine if you put children in a room with all the games they could ever think of, infinite manifestation, they knew themselves as the divine here. They would manifest whatever they needed, do whatever they wanted. So you've put them in a place where it's an infinite playground of play, of fun, and they're childlike, right? They're innocent, new souls, childlike, not wise yet. So, but they still have the power of the infinite. They don't do anything. They wander around playing and having fun and having sex with each other, and then they don't do their homework, right? So that's why we forget. But
so does this metaphor work? I'm getting in the image of a tree, let's say like a big oak tree with lots of leaves on it, that each being is a leaf on the tree, but we are all the tree, but we have some unique manifestations as each in quote unquote individual, but we are all the tree. The leaf is the tree. That's the image that's coming to mind for me for how this plays out.
Sure. So I'll can I just layer it in the tree? I'm just drawing a little picture here. Mm-hmm. To help illustrate how I see it. But yeah, I see it as a tree. It's in magical practice, they probably call it the tree of mind, or the tree of life. And it is kind of like that. And basically, the body, we could be seen as like one leaf in a bundle of branches or a bundle of leaves. Basically these are each the logos. So just one second here. So let's see if you can see that. So basically,
what does the first part say?
At the bottom you have
self.
At the bottom you have self. You have the human. This is the human body, or the entity, or the soul, basically. The soul is attached into the earth, which is attached up into the cosmos. So there's the collective sort of energy and fields that are within each, and it goes up like a tree and down, and it's in a way it's sort of got a hierarchy, a little bit of an order to it. So it all filters down. So our sun is the generator of the plan, basically, or some of the architect for our experience here. And then the earth takes that plan, adds its will to it, and then we take the earth and sun's plan together and add our will to it and create what we create in our free will. So everything's based on free will, but the higher order of intelligence that you're a part of drops down its will into you, sort of. So you're aware of the will of both the earth, the sun, the Milky Way, and then also the center of the universe.
And is it possible to just conceptualize, say, the 7-8 billion beautiful beings on this earth as 7 to 8 billion leaves on a tree? But we're all one. We are all the tree.
Yeah. My theory actually is that we have 144,000 higher selves that are facilitating lives on the earth and distributing purview over incarnations across different times. This is just a theory, of course. So I actually think of it like not the human itself, the one individual human is more like a component of a single leaf, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the entity that is invested in Earth is the higher self, drawing, like, it's dreamed you into being onto this planet. So the higher self is the one that's really invested into the energy of the Earth. The
higher self is the leaf, and then all of the incarnations from that higher self. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe it would be better to say the higher self is like the branch, maybe, and it has all these different leaves on it.
Okay.
Right.
That's like I can see that.
Yeah. So and each leaf could be the individual.
The individual incarnation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that higher self.
Yeah, and because it's all because time isn't like simultaneous, they have to manage hundreds or thousands of incarnations at a time. And I think what they do is they step around time to do that. Well, they're from a place of no time, right? So they don't have to step around time, I should say. But they just are sort of moving us, like directing us in a sort of really subtle way, just nudges, like little bits of information that are interesting that pull us within. Like, for example, I was like in 2008 or something, I got obsessed with secret societies and tried to figure out what the hell they were. And I had no idea about any of the weird things going on here, any of this stuff. But I sensed they had there was a mystery in what they're doing, because most of the secret societies that are trying to accomplish anything are actually just sort of antiquated mystery schools that have then tried to formalize and keep having members come in. But they're mysteries. They're all magicians. They're all basically magicians. And so they're keeping all of that to themselves. But so basically, years and years ago, I was probably like 22 or something. I went in through this whole phase of like trying to figure out what they were. There wasn't a lot of information at the time that I could find. I found whatever I found that was meant for me. And then I found people started coming to me who had family that were Freemasons, and we started to talk about that. And I thought about trying to join and all these other things, because I was like, these guys know something. I feel it, right, at the time. So, fast forward years and years, I no longer had any, yearning to join, but what it inspired in me earlier, this is the type of work the higher self does and how time isn't real. This is what I'm trying to show you. Is sort of like you'll get an inspiration around a thing that makes no sense, really, that's you're just really pulled to research, and a decade later or longer, it's as if you just resume from where you left off. It's as if nothing happened between there, and you're re-inspired with that same passion, and you start to seek again. So the higher self sort of helps to manage some of that to make sure that the trajectory is kept on. And there's a lot of really, really interesting, funky stuff going on with how we think we have free will, and we do, but not really also. Not really. Like Sean doesn't have free will, because Sean is part of a whole that's moving together. Sean doesn't choose where everything's going, right? And then we might be said, but you can choose what shoes you put on in the morning, and you can choose. Can you though? Can you? Are you sure? Because I'll just suggest to everyone, you're not choosing anything. No, you're not. You're choosing between the only choice that's being made here ever is, am I showing up in love or am I showing up in fear? That's the only choice that you're really making. Everything else is unknown. Everything else is we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what other people are thinking. Even if we're deeply psychic and intuitive, we still don't know exactly what their experience is. We don't, if we're presented with an option, let's say we really like donuts and we don't like lettuce. We're presented with two plates and one's donuts and one's lettuce. We're probably going to pick the donuts. If we have the right stimuli that makes us afraid of the donuts, such as, let's say Tassel's been on my case for eating donuts because I eat 20 donuts a day. And she's like, you know what, if you don't stop eating donuts, I can't be with someone that's going to, destroy themselves with donuts. And I'm like, oh no, okay, I promise I'll never have a donut again. And then I'm offered this, and she can see, and I'm like, we want to have, I want to have the donut, but because Tassel's watching and all that, and I made a promise, I choose not to, right? So we make these sort of reasons why we choose what we choose. So we distort stuff. And it seems like we're choosing, but really what we're doing in that moment, if I was alone and just my joy, I'd probably just pick a donut and not care at all about anything and eat it. But because I've made this promise to Tassel and she's there watching, although if she wasn't there, I probably wouldn't eat the donut either because I made the promise. But I'm just, for example's sake, if she's there and watching, I feel afraid that I'm going to disappoint her. I feel afraid that I'm going to be non-committal to my promise. So I act from fear and I eat the lettuce. And so it just goes to show you in this example that clearly the healthy thing, the loving thing for the body, right, is the lettuce. That's the loving thing for the body. The loving thing for the ego is the donut, because the ego gets endorphins and chemicals. But the loving thing for the body is lettuce. And the loving thing to do is to, Basically, that's what we're kind of choosing. That's all we're really choosing. And so,
So would you say that everything that we experience throughout every day has already been lined up for us?
no,
And okay, no.
no, no, that's the weirdest part of it all.
Okay.
For me, that's the weirdest part of it all. That, no, there are, the best way to describe the way I understand it. This is starting to get into territories that's really hard to talk about, but the creation unfolds moment by moment, and the future moment is not decided on until it is into the creation, till it's there. So until it's there, it's a potential. Some people would call it a timeline. There are people that believe that you're choosing your timelines consciously by the decisions you make. There's some truth to that, but they're also a little bit confused because they think they're making decisions. So we are able to switch timelines, but not until you're in consort with the higher self in a really direct way can you notice when these multiple timelines are actually at your door, and notice which way the higher self is guiding you. You still are not choosing. You're following your soul's path, like, but you're aware. You start to become aware of what you're saying no to more, I guess. So you're sort of choosing, but anyway, so there's a lot of people that are starting to talk about trying to manage your timelines and choose your life and choose all these things. But that choosing is just really holding on to this human self that does not know. So the human self cannot be choosing anything other than how to show up. Like, how do I respond to what's on offer? That's what the human self, that's all it does. So yeah.
So we are creating our reality, our external reality, moment by moment. And the choice on offer is continually, am I coming from a place of love and faith, or am I coming from a place of fear? And then like each one is a crossroads.
Yeah, exactly. You could see every moment as a choice point of crossroads. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine if you approach me with a problem, like, I'm feeling really sad, Sean, I'd like to talk to you about this. And then I just get really angry and upset and tell you to frig off. like I always do. Then I've made a fear choice point that's going to make you feel, oh, like that was bad. Maybe you're upset with me. Maybe you're upset with yourself. I've hurt you. There's all of this crappy stuff. So I've chosen sort of a darker path in that moment. If I choose to open my heart and to ask for more information and to try to help and do all those things, then I'm choosing a lighter path. And both paths will coalesce into the same result, which just means expansion for both people. But the choice, is almost, we're never choosing really between a whole bunch of different things. We're really just choosing between one or the other, between love and fear.
Yeah, the way it comes through for me is that we have a curriculum that our soul has planned for every incarnation. And there's going to be some major things that occur. And how we traverse the curriculum is the free will part of it. And it, as you said, comes down to love, faith versus fear. And that's how we are creator beings within the track of our soul's curriculum.
Yeah. Basically, we each have a curriculum or a course that we've laid out for ourselves. That's exactly right. And there are sort of destined sort of learning points. The way that I recall this process, there are sort of destined learning points that are just very, very, very likely to occur. The because those points have been chosen, the higher self can actually do a lot to make sure it happens, right? So for example,
Yes.
like the higher self can get right in the mix of stuff and shift things, make something just impossible for you to make sure
Yes.
you do the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot, using the metaphor of spirit or the higher self turning up the volume. So
Yep.
I know we've talked about on the stream, both of us um, eventually left our marriages, but it was very difficult because of our children, and how for each one of us it seemed that the higher self was really turning up the volume until it almost became impossible not to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one way. That's the
Yeah.
primary way they do that. That's the primary way that it's done. That the universe corrects itself is by making something so uncomfortable that you have no choice. You can't ignore it. It's like standing on a pile of embers or something. Like you
The
have to get
human
off.
can't ignore it. Yeah. And so I mean, some of the ways we can see, and I've experienced it in my life, is if things seem to be going horribly, like just a lot of chaos, a lot of problems, could be health issues. There may very well be something that you're not releasing, that you're not letting go of, or you're not welcoming something in. And the universe is giving you feedback that you're off track, you are not in alignment. Not to say that we can be in alignment and things still come in, but when it gets like just really chaotic.
It won't feel. Yeah, that's the best point. Like there's always stuff happening around us, right? Like
Yes.
especially with our loved ones, if unless we're isolated in a cave or somewhere, we're going to have chaos around us a lot, probably here and
Yeah.
there. It'll come in waves usually, right? Most of us notice that it comes in sort of little waves and dips and valleys, peaks and valleys. And we are aligned when we're not swayed by that, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked about this before, that uh, I feel when we're in alignment, when we're really on our soul's path, we can tune into a peace within us, even if it may be very uncomfortable and maybe not quite what the human wants. We can still sense this peace. This is what I feel these days, that everything in my external life is not ideal to my human. For instance, you and I would prefer to live always in the same place as you. And right now that's not the external reality, but I have a peace within me. I can feel I'm doing what I set out to do in this incarnation. I'm showing up in the way I think I want to. So there's a peace. And for instance, just to contrast that, when I was in my marriage, which just really wasn't working for either one of us, no fault, just I think it was a karmic thing that we were working out. I did not have peace, not at all. There was a big voice inside of me that's like, this is not working. This is not aligned. You need to leave. You need to leave. And then my fear was like, oh my gosh, but my children, and I don't know what to do. And so I lived in a lot of inner war, inner conflict.
Yep. Yeah, I did the same thing for years, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just kept having kids too. They just kept
Yeah.
popping out. So I was sort of like, I'm like, it was challenging to leave, and so I went quite deep into unconscious being, quite deep, which is why I'm so capable to talk about how to come out of deeply unconscious states.
Same.
And,
I was.
yeah,
same.
I should say I knew that you did as well. So a lot of us have. Like if we didn't grow up in a very, very accepting and free household and schooling system and stuff too, and all that, then we're gonna have a lot of those types of issues with trying to control stuff, trying to be like trying to basically make things the way we want them to be. And we need to shut off, because if we can't shut off our feelings and how uncomfortable everything is, then we don't know how to continue. So
yeah, so it's almost like, I know we're really a little bit off topic, and we'll come back in a minute to more divine union, but just to maybe one more point here that I wanted to share is
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say Garganzul is here. I wanted to say hello, brother or sister. I'm not sure of their gender, but I've been talking to them a little bit. I just wanted to say hello.
Oh, awesome. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. The way I see it is we're unconscious in the beginning because of how we've been socialized, and we're acting from fear and rationalization. And then we wake up, and the dark night of the soul is really just seeing how unconscious we were. Yeah. And really letting go of everything that was in our lives that we created in our unconscious consciousness through fear and rationalization. And then eventually we get to this like lighter, purer space where we've let a lot of that go, and we are living from love and faith, and then we are creating in love and faith, and then that we're in alignment, and that brings in it could bring in a divine union, it could bring in your really aligned life purpose, and it just all feels so much better. Not to say there are not still some interesting adventures on that path, but there's so much peace, and you're living from love and faith.
Yeah.
So just getting back to what we started with, unity consciousness, and Sean, you sharing that part of the divine union twin flame journey is to achieve, I don't like that word, is to remember, let's say that. Yes. Remember unity consciousness starting with each other. So can you just speak a little bit more about that, and how can two divine union partners, what can they do to just remember that more?
So usually there's going to be one partner that steps into that area first or more. This is sort of this way because if both do it at the same time, then you're going to have basically two people's paradigm shift happening simultaneously, which will just cause probably stuff to fall apart. So usually what happens is one will integrate first, the other will integrate after, through the somewhat through the example of the first in some ways, like, and then but the one that's not directly experiencing that yet, or they're usually like aware that seems to be the higher truth, like they can feel that is true. They may not have had the space to really do that in their life yet. They've been busy. We've talked about the homemaker sort of, or householder sort of pathway. They might be on that type of path or something where they can tell that this is kind of where they're headed. They can feel that sort of, it makes sense that that's how they would like to see the world. But they have a lot of ties that are keeping them here that they feel they have to figure out first. So there's usually that type of setup happening. And so the person that's in the unity can feel a little lonely in that perspective because they're literally seeing the world non-linearly. They're seeing the world through the heart, which causes a deep sensitivity. But they're also, because they're seeing the world through the heart, most of what they're seeing is just intuition. They're not thinking so much about stuff. So they're picking up on all the energies. They're picking up everything, your hidden thoughts. They're feeling those. They don't read the mind and know exactly what you're saying, but they just feel that didn't feel very good. I can tell that my partner is not really happy with me right in this moment. I can feel it, like that I've just done something. And yes, they'll probably correct that orientation. They'll probably switch it and see that this is something I'm seeing in myself, but right now they see me as a villain, or that stuff, even if it's brief, is very, very painful for someone that sees their partner as them, right? So, because it's basically saying my partner sees me as separate from them right now. And so that feels as lack of acceptance to the one that's in unity consciousness. Whenever any anger or anything pops up, and it still pops up in the other person too. And so then both are sort of trying to harmonize together while moving up this sort of ladder, or I call it the spiral staircase. But as we both go up, as everyone goes up, and couples will do it all differently. And I'm sure some will do both at the same time, but usually there's one kind of is ahead, and then they may stop, and then the other may start to go further ahead as well, because sometimes they take breaks and things too. But I think the main thing that we both that both partners need to work on is essentially compulsion. All compulsion is probably the biggest block to allowing divinity to be its truer self. Compulsion is one of the biggest way probably to deal with compulsion is to stop talking. Like basically what we're trying to notice is that we have desires and compulsions to do stuff, and we don't have to do that. Like, we're trying to learn each compulsion we have is really a choice. We're making the choice unconsciously because it's a compulsion, and we just feel drawn to do the thing. So we'll feel drawn to go eat a Big Mac, or we'll feel whatever it is. All of our unhealthy things that are done in fear unconsciously are compulsions that we have, that we've already sort of programmed in. So we're trying to notice our compulsions with each other. So basically, for example, if I say something and Tassel gets upset, I'll notice in her this perception of separation that she's having, which makes me feel separate in the moment. So it feels really hard for me. And I'm not that she does this, and not that this is a complaint, but I'm just trying to express sort of how compulsion steps into this and how we heal from it. So essentially, I have to notice that Tassel in this moment sees me as separate from her. Because moments in nonlinear purview are infinite, it feels I am not accepted forever. Like, it's eternal. That moment is eternal to that being. So the now is unaccepted. So when we're not accepted now, it means I am not accepted. That's how it feels anyways. And so that person's getting used to that orientation around that feeling, but noticing that she feels that way, I need to learn to be okay, basically, that's how she feels, that it's okay for her to feel that way. It's okay that I feel uncomfortable with it, and that I don't actually have to feel uncomfortable with it, that I too can be disturbed out of my peace. I can view her with fear and view her the same way. Like, these are some of the learnings that we see, and we can see the compulsion in both of us. So I can see that I said something she didn't like, and her compulsion was to separate in fear, right? She didn't like what I said, so compulsion of fear or instinct, compulsion to separate, to pull away energetically, or other ways, physical ways, walk away, whatever it is. Tassel doesn't do a lot of the walking away, but on occasion I say something that upsets you, right? Mm-hmm. And so when that happens, all that pain that comes up in me is my stuff. It's my thing. And I need to learn how to just be okay that sometimes people, it's not necessarily about me so much. I have to remember that. I have to know that it's not about me, that they're not accepting me. They're just seeing stuff that's bugging them. Like it's making them uncomfortable. Something in the reality is making them uncomfortable. Something I said reminded them of something. And then on their side, they have to look at whatever I did or said that they didn't like, and learn how to be okay with that too, and forgive me for that, forgive themselves for getting upset. So there's two sides looking at this mirror, trying to figure out what's going on. Depending on what level they're at with that particular type of interaction, they're going to be learning different things. And most of it is just about learning where we have our compulsions to react to stimuli. You know?
So,
does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes. So in our relationship, you are in unity consciousness. I am not, I would say, as deep into unity consciousness as you are. And you said that, so like, for instance, when we're physically apart, it tends to be, I think, hard for each of us because of the difference in the unity consciousness perspective. Like for me, when we're physically apart, it's harder for me to feel as close to you as when we're physically together.
Yeah.
And then I think you voiced that that's a bit hard for you, that I see it that way, that, just because we are physically apart, that we're not connected in the same way.
This is a really good example of this. Yeah.
So, so again, the carrot to me is, because I don't like to suffer, as most humans don't. So the carrot to me is, I want to get into more unity consciousness so that when we are apart, it's not as painful.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where you get offered these opportunities. Like, you could kind of think of it like whenever you meet anyone, however they're being, whatever everyone's a teacher, right? Whatever they're teaching, do you want a part of that lesson, or not? Right? So if someone's in a consciousness state that you're like, that seems like a better state.
Yeah.
Then basically, you're offered an opportunity to learn within how to reach that, or if you're offered just that opportunity, you don't have to do that. There's nobody forcing you to do anything. But the other option is to just be okay, right? So it's the interesting thing about the consciousness state that sort of you would yearn for is that you're yearning for the consciousness state to fix the issue of closeness, but it is the lack of issue of closeness that allows the consciousness state to be. So if you feel separate from people, then you'll continue to feel separate from them. So basically, it's acceptance of what is that allows the state to become as it is. So if we're trying to like achieve anything, like if we're basically saying, this is why I tell people not to focus on a particular outcome when they're trying to find a higher consciousness state or increase their vibration. They're doing that because that's what they want to do, sort of. Or if they want to step into unity consciousness is not a normal thing that people step into, I would say, right now, and more are. And the frequency is there and people can reach it, but it's a real challenge, I would say, to integrate that worldview in a place like this where most people don't see things that way. It's hard to be a normal human. We have all these problems with time and money and all these things because I don't get it anymore, really, right? So
yeah, what you're saying is really interesting because I think I shared this on one of the streams. Just this past weekend, I entered what I would call a Satori state. And I'm not sure if that's equivalent to unity consciousness or not, but I wasn't trying to do anything. I just, for the past month or so, I'd been on this like really radical self-love, self-acceptance, and honoring of myself. That piece, and then being like really present with myself and just really following the guidance moment to moment. It seemed like those, and then releasing so much over the past decades, basically. But all that together seemed to put me into this Satori state. And I don't know if that was a unity consciousness state as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I think that's initiatory towards unity. Like, so usually it's, in my experience, I'll just say my experience, because I this is just how I recall it. It was in Satori state that it became obvious to me that oh, no one's here. We're all just one thing. Whoa. That just became, I became aware. I started to, when I was in that state after I had my Kundalini awakening, I was able to see inside of objects and things. Like I had, I had sort of, I could see the atomic structures of things that were, I was looking at, like in my third eye. So I'd be looking at a chair and I'd be able to see inside of it and see the vibrating little bits. I don't know what they were, little vibrating like lines. And I was like, well, what is going on with my, right? I was basically having a tripped out Kundalini awakening experience. So what happens is, from the Satori state, that experience is accessible, I think. And so then it just becomes a matter of like when that pop happens. But basically entering that state allows it to flourish. And that's sort of what ends up precipitating this awareness. You experience it directly, like you know it, like you, yeah.
So just like, if it's okay, just to nail it down, what I may experience in the future is a feeling of you and everyone else, but just starting with you, you are not separate from me. Like, you are me, I am you. We are never separated, even if there's physical distance. That's what you currently experience towards me and everyone.
So you are, remember I was talking about compulsions? These compulsions are sort of stuck in your system for a while. So you can see unity, like I see unity 90 or 95% of the time. And then I have 5% of the time that some compulsion has pulled me out of it, like pulled me into some weird attachment, or to just forget myself for a couple moments or a few days. But over the span of like the last several months, I would say 90+%, I am at peace and feeling like I'm one with everything. So like, maybe, okay, just the example of you and me being in different countries. Whether we're in the same physical location or not, you have the same experience. Like, you don't feel apart from me. I don't have a closeness gap experience where closeness is different. Each moment is very, very close, regardless of in the way I experience it. Now, when I'm talking on something like Zoom, it doesn't feel as close to me. So, but basically that's just the nature of the energy and the distance and how the energy works in the distance. So in order for me to feel close to you, I have to go into non-linear planes and come to you, or bring you to me, basically, in my heart. So I can do that on command, but so I can feel you as if here with me on command. So I don't really feel lonely ever. I do still have the compulsion of the egoic identity or the false identity that believes that, he believes he misses his kids and these various things. Those beliefs aren't real. Those beliefs are not real, but I still fall into them. And I feel sad that my kids aren't around, or I feel whatever. So the compulsions are still there. They pull us out of it unless we've cleansed it all. So the reason that I talk about this stuff a lot is because I went through a pretty unique experience. Everyone's experience is really unique, but mine, I didn't understand any of the concepts. I was not in any of this stuff. I was not looking for any of this stuff in my life. And then I suddenly had a Kundalini awakening. So I would say, more compulsion left over from my deeply unconscious patterning than a lot of people. I would say maybe not more, but just lots and lots. When I had the Kundalini awakening, I had all the light available to heal all of it. And I just didn't even know what was happening. So in order for me to then apply all this light and love to heal myself, I didn't do that. I just wandered around going, look at all the stuff here that we have made. Right? Like, that's kind of how I was like, I'm awake. But I was so distracted by just being awake and here that I didn't do anything. I was just wandering around saying weird stuff to people. And so I didn't know to heal. I didn't, and it was all perfect. I would have thought to try and heal myself and, all these things if that's what I was to do. So that was my experience of it. And so I still have a bunch of compulsions, which causes me to act out of harmony with my belief, which is unity, which causes all these other issues and stuff.
So I'm just, from this talk that we've been having, for me, I think what I realize is my pathway to unity consciousness is just being in my heart. When I'm in, and I just like to call it my heart mind. When I'm in my heart mind, I believe I do feel connected to everyone. And I just feel peace. And so maybe that's just for me how I remain in unity consciousness, is just being in my heart.
Yep. I would say that, like, that Satori state is like a threshold state that you enter into, and then unity may be a bit up or something at the next state. And you don't have to hold the unity consciousness frequency all the time to be aware that it is the true reality, right? So, like, I can act in separation and forget and do things, but still know deeper that it's unity. We all know deeply that we are one being. So we all remember, and then we forget back and forth through in a given day, right? So if you reach that state of just going into your heart, the what's limiting the body from vibrating higher is attachments in fear, basically. So even things like, how even things like heavy metal, for example, like when you're hearing heavy metal, you kind of gets on your nerves and stuff, that type of thing. There's something there. There's something there to look at. This would be an indicator that, like, this frequency, I don't really like this energy, right? And just that alone means I'm not really ready to consider myself as all that is. So even all of those little things, basically attachment to anything with, like, our opinions, our, like, human opinions and stuff, we have to, like, basically let go of all of that. And so I got really lucky that I had the Kundalini awakening the way I did, because when that happens, you just see that, oh, this stuff, oh, okay, you see. And so to work on it without seeing, you have to have faith that unity is real. and then basically explore some of the reasons, like, think about and contemplation on like, does this thing make it hard? Or, watching certain movies. Like one of the movies I watched was that Epstein movie. It's a dark movie, right? Like some dark stuff going on there. And, ask yourself questions like, can I love this person that's done these things? Can I love the innocence of their divinity while also honoring all that has occurred here, all the pain of all the victims and but most people, or lots of people, would want to watch that to basically condemn and hate and get furious about. That's what most people would experience, probably. Other people would wonder about the psychology, about how he could be the way he was. It's clear he's a psychopath or antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic. That was clear. But so there'd be people curious about that. But there's lessons in like, that's a part of me too, this person, right? And being able to like be okay that is true. That's sort of the way to lighten all the load, so that when you then go into the Satori state, just by centering in with your heart and the I am presence, you'll have just a moment one day where we keep letting go and letting go and letting go and letting go. We're kind of like a rocket ship that's like, it's got all this baggage, and we have thrusters, infinite thrusters going, and we're just discarding baggage. So every time we do, we can go higher and higher. And that's why it's so helpful for us to have a partner mirror our most painful things, so that we can forgive them because we love them so much, and then accept them, accept ourselves, and move on from it. We get lighter, 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 and then we blow through the sort of the thresholds of consciousness until we eventually are at what they would call the avatar level, or Krishna, Jesus, Buddha, etc. But that's how that happens. And so the first step is to allow the external to be as it is and be okay with it and accept it and love it. Like to basically be joyful that the moment is as it is in all moments outside of what's going on, like, right? And then the next step is to be joyful regardless of having an identity at all. So basically sacrificing the body. Not sacrificing like destroying, but just letting go of the identity. Like realizing, and I often say like, Sean isn't here. And this is why I say this to people as well, is because I'm reminding myself, right? I'm trying to dismantle this thing that I've made that no longer serves me. We're letting go of all that baggage. And yeah. So that's sort of the way that I see it. But yeah, the Satori state is definitely the like entryway. That's definitely where it all happens. When you're in that state, you're in the nonlinear thought that I was talking about. So you're ready to see it and experience it from that state. But if you haven't yet, then it just means that there's just some basically bags on your ship to notice and let go of. And it's definitely not something we want to like put on our wish board and like kind of be like, I can't wait to get there, and try to force it, I would say, because it's like you're teetering a line of sanity and insanity that I just like to highlight for people. It becomes a very wacky thing when this happens. So anyone that's pursuing it, I just like to say that the whole world suddenly flips upside down. So everything you thought is suddenly seen as nonsense when you hit that threshold. So by all means, it is a sort of required component of awakening and ascending to eventually see that in some lifetime or another. But we don't have to rush and like freak out about it. And, I think Tassel and I are in these situations where I would really like her to do that. But then at the same time, I'm aware of all of that. Like, how it would be really hard for you to continue all the stuff you do around the house and all the things that you do in your life if this moment happened to you, like if it happened just today, let's say, that would be really challenging probably for you. And you know, so I find myself playing a lot in some of the systems that I've kind of left a bit in my attachments, like you know, and playing in some of the things to help try to keep things balanced between us. Like I try to pay attention to time and stuff the way that to be just more harmonious. And so we're doing okay with that, but we don't always do perfectly. But it's all perfect. And I want to say too, it's not one's higher than the other. It's not like that. It's not that seeing unity is better. At this stage, I would actually say it's probably like there's great things about it. The pro thing about it is that you can find peace in yourself pretty easily. But the negative thing about it is that you feel absolutely entirely alone because no one else seems to see the world properly. So we all know how that feeling of like, I see the world this way and most people should see it this way too. Most people probably do. Everyone sees the world kind of like I do. When we're in the third density and in the matrix of the illusion, that's somewhat true. That is somewhat accurate. Like we're all participating in all these different frameworks of illusions together. So we are participating in a similar reality. And then when you step out of it, you're no longer a part of it. And you just feel like there's no one else who understands. Now, eventually you meet people that do understand it. But so there's a lot of challenge there individually for that person. And then there's challenge, like if we're in a relationship, like I'm sure we compare ourselves to each other as well. So like part of me wants to stop seeing unity so I could just be less sensitive and less, you know, wrapped up in trying to teach unity and all my principles and all these things. Like sometimes I exhaust myself with my own fervor, I guess, to teach and stuff. So like there's a whole bunch of like side effects, I guess, of moving into it really quickly or in this state of the society now. And yeah, so we're in this what you would call it a luminal space, I think, between where we have some people seeing a unity and some people seeing the more third density stuff.
Yeah, a liminal space.
Yeah, and so we're transitioning, and basically people that are seeing unity have to learn that some people aren't, and people that aren't have to learn that some people are. And so we're in this weird
and I
place.
think this goes under the topic of cultural differences between divine union partners, and whether one person is in unity consciousness, one person isn't, both are, both aren't. I think the larger learning here is acceptance, love, and honoring of oneself and of the other. And that all is perfect. And to let go of judgment, to let go of comparison, to let go of any sense of like spiritual hierarchy.
Exactly.
It could be that one of you has taken on to not yet see unity consciousness in order to facilitate the learning of the other.
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one person may be giving a gift to the other, and so we don't know. We don't know. All we know is that the invitation is always to accept, love, and honor ourselves and our partner, and to let go of judgment, comparison, and any hierarchy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that to me is one of the biggest invitations on this divine union journey. And that is the inner union with self, because when we do accept, love, and honor ourselves, then we are in union with ourselves. So it's very easy to get caught up in spiritual hierarchy. in
So
every
easy.
way.
Even and
This person astral projects. I don't know how to do that. Oh, this
exactly.
person is in unity consciousness. Oh, this person, can see past lives. Whatever it is. My understanding is that all of that is great. Those are all really fun and great and beautiful. And of course, unity consciousness is really super important to peace and where we're headed in the next dimension. It's not to marginalize any of that. But my understanding is the biggest invitation is love. The biggest invitation is love. Love oneself, love the other, let go of judgment and comparison.
Yeah, exactly. You brought up a perfect point. The person who enters unity has accepted reality enough that they can experience unity consciousness. That does not mean that they are fully cleansed, fully purified, right? And so what ends up happening is they're going to have people in their life conflict or confront their worldview, right? They're going to have people that act in separation around them or do something that triggers separate feelings and things. And they have to learn that it's okay that the other is not seeing, that's why Tassel is the perfect partner for me. She understands cognitively, at least, what I'm sharing, and always makes an effort to accept me. And that's basically all I need to then basically feel like, okay, so there is harmony that can be arrived at with my partner who knows of unity and I think holds that as a sort of a potential exploration, but also feels very in tune with a mission that is much more grounded, I would say, much more 3D grounded, oriented towards serving some of the people that haven't been able to ascend or raise their vibration as much. So Tassel focuses a lot on personal, and I'm not going to speak for her, but just my observation of Tassel focuses a lot on personal empowerment and about basically empowering us into being more authentic, speaking our truth, following our dreams, and doing what we want to do. Where then I speak at a different level for the awakening person. So there's both. It's important to feel empowered first before you step into the stuff that I tend to talk about. Because if you don't feel that you can handle it, then you're gonna have a meltdown, basically. And I had one. That's how I know.
My guidance has always given me the word bridge.
That's exactly.
My service is as a bridge of like the human to the spiritual, and exactly. That I toggle both realms, but I'm not supposed to be completely off in the clouds.
Yeah,
in the spiritual realm. Yeah, I'm a bridge for people.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's perfect. And you teach me so much about like the consciousness state and the open-heartedness. You tend to have a more open heart than I do, which has perplexed me a lot. Around like I would have assumed that holding the unity consciousness frequency would mean that my heart is more open, and I don't think it does. I'm based on what I observe, anyways, in my experience. Now I can't know that. I don't know Tassel's experience, but from what I've observed, her heart is wide open, as if she is in unity consciousness. So she's sort of like a unique kind of weirdo in this way. Her heart is open as if she's in unity consciousness, but she's still playing in the 3D, some of the 3D stuff, so she can be very sensitive to it. I think this is, Tassel, why you're so sensitive. This is just my thoughts on it. If it resonates, great. If not, of course. But the heart's wide open, and that's why she gets so hurt if I say something a little harsh, because she's wide open. and I'm saying something harsh because I'm not as wide open, but I'm still, holding the frequency. So it's very odd to me that setup exists, and so I learned a lot from her basically because I had reached intelligent infinity basically through repression of my feelings. I think I repressed and repressed and repressed and repressed and repressed until I had a tight, closed heart, a black ball almost of just closed heart. I wasn't outwardly trying to manipulate others to gain things and do anything, but I was only really oriented to my comfort. If I'm honest with myself, in the past, that's what I was. And I think actually most of us are kind of like that initially, and then we begin to become aware that that's not quite how we want to be. But so I'm still learning how to open the heart more and more and more, while then maintaining the frequency. And so Tassel has been instrumental in that way. So yeah, it's really important not to get hierarchical, not to compare ourselves to our partners. There's been so many times that I don't even talk because I was what's the word, intimidated by Tassel being a doctor, and basically like I didn't want to sound stupid to her, and all these different things were coming up. Basically, it's challenging to come. You remember my background, right? I'm an IT dude that had an awakening and met God. That I don't know anything about religion. Now I've learned. I picked up stuff now. I didn't know about psychology really. Like, I had researched it all, but I never went to any school for it. I never did anything. And I'm aware of all that kind of that there's this. I think we know a lot of the same things, and we are in alignment on a lot of our beliefs around these concepts. But my knowledge just comes from where, I don't know. So it can be intimidating to even engage with her in that way as well. So there's all these different dynamics. She's also really intense, and so something that tends to be a consequence of unity consciousness is a more neutral expression, like a little less. I'm less excited, but also less upset. That's where that neutral starts to happen, and then you start to build on the joy. But anyways, it's been quite a fanciful journey. Quite a lovely experience.
I'm laughing just because everything you've just said, I could just say as well. Like, I feel intimidated by you at times, and less than, and like sometimes just like even just scared to interact because I don't want to get triggered or
I've been scared of you for a few days now. Yeah, we had an experience a few days back, and I routinely go through these moments of like fear around you, around what I should do or not do, and when I have those states, though, I tend to just not do anything. I tend to just be quiet because I see fear as confusion. So when I'm in fear, then I probably shouldn't do anything. I should just wait, see what happens,
Yeah. And I really love I know we've been talking a long time. We'll probably wrap up in a minute or two, but I just feel like saying that I love the orientation of what I'm scared of. Lean in. So,
yeah.
Sometimes our interactions, they can be very triggering, and they can bring up really uncomfortable stuff, as they're supposed to. That's the whole point of the journey together, to help us see it and move through it and release it. So I just love this idea of, oh, I'm uncomfortable around that. Oh, all right. So I better lean in there. And I think you and I have just continually done that. And we were on a twin flame support group call last night, and we were talking about that we did have a physical separation for about 3 months last year where there was no real contact. But compared to a lot of other twin flame divine union partners, that is a really small, short separation period. You know, we've been talking to people who've been separated in separation for like 6 years or years and years. And it's really interesting to talk to them. And they often say, I shut down. I just shut down. And so when you shut down and you're not leaning in and you're not feeling, that's going to be stagnancy. And yeah, you're going to remain in separation. So I come back to it a lot between you and me. I think both of us are super committed to our growth, our ascension, our progression, and this constant like coming back, like almost like, okay, steeling yourself, like, all right, I can do this. I can do this. I'm scared, but I can do this. To just like coming back to each other and okay, here we go. Let's do it. And then I will also just say that to me, at least when we're in person, it's a lot easier. Like, I almost feel like things are orchestrated that, I don't know, maybe it's orchestrated to be a little more misunderstandings or whatever when we're apart so that we can have these big catalysts and move a lot through us. But it does, to me, at least for the most part, when we're actually together, it's pretty easy and quite lovely and very compatible and best friendy. It seems like when we're apart, that's when we're getting a lot of the catalyst just to help move stuff through us. So anyway.
Yeah, I would say too that, you know, I think a big part of the reason that that happens in that way, this just feels right to me. Like, it's because we each have to deal with it in our own way. Like, we have to figure it out and move through it in our own way. And to make it more comfortable, doing it alone is actually better. Like, if you remember, we had a pretty big thing at your house right before I left that one night, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
And part of the reason that was a nightmare is because neither of us had space to just pull away from each other.
Yeah.
And figure out our feelings, right? Like,
yes, right.
We didn't really get the space properly to do that because we were right there. And we hadn't really, I think, learned that lesson yet. That's
really necessary.
That we need to do that. So, so I think the universe was using that to show us that. And then also when we have our any catalysts and issues when we're hanging out on Zoom or whatever it is, remotely, we have space to just pull away and just figure out ourselves, figure out how we're feeling, and then come back. And if we were doing that together, I don't think we would be able to do that so properly, so well. And so that's my theory on why that's happening that way. And I think it's really normal. Like, especially for someone like me, that's like the only way I know how to deal with anything is to just take time to myself. I don't know how to process it while someone's there, because I'm getting distracted by all the feelings that are there that I'm feeling with them as well. And so it's kind of a weird state for me to be in. So I have trouble even physically if they're near me. So I tend to go into the bath and things like that. So it's funny, like somebody says something mean and I'm like, I'm taking a bath. I'm sad. I'm taking a bath. I'm going to have bubbles. A bath bomb. I have a heart-shaped bath bomb. But for real, that's what I do. That's what I do. If I, luckily nothing really, I don't get triggered that much. I've had a kind of a nightmare week. And it's okay. It's okay. So I think that, that's probably a good place for us to end. But I don't know if there's anything you wanted to end on, or.
I just want to end, I think, every single stream by just emphasizing like love, accept, honor yourself, love, accept, honor your partner and everyone else. And that to me is like the biggest invitation, the biggest practice always.
And if you need to have a bath because someone was mean to you, that's okay. It's okay that you're a baby like I am. It's okay. It's whatever you can do, because really the priority, I just want to say the priority is like settling your vibration. That should be the priority, I would say.
Always.
Like if your being is unsettled, settle yourself before you do things. Like,
yes,
if you have a commitment, don't do it. Stop. Like, you don't.
Yes. Make your vibration and your internal peace your number one priority. That's
your currency to the universe and like what you're offering. So like, let's say you have an important meeting coming and you find it important, you think, but then you're so upset about something happened just 5 minutes before it. You're so upset. It's possible the universe is offering you a chance to try to do it anyway, but I would say most likely, like, you're going to bring a bad juju, right? Like, you're going to bring a bad vibe to this whole thing that's really important to you. It's probably better to treat it as if you're sick, to literally just think of, like, I'm sick right now from what just happened. So I don't think I should attend because I'm going to bring garbage to this meeting that's important, and it may be better to postpone the meeting, just not do it. People will understand. You don't have to give them that much details. People understand life, and just trusting that they'll understand you and be okay with it, and try not to make a habit of that type of thing, because we can use that as a crutch too. And I've done that before too. So just, prioritize your vibration over basically everything, and set that as your intention in the morning to kind of set a nice, good baseline vibration, feeling good, wake up remembering that I'm peace and all these things, and then go through your day. And if you fall out of it, the quicker you get back into it, the less crap you're going to manifest around you also, which is something that a lot of people are interested in reducing, right? So
exactly,
when we're
everything
all
you
upset,
said.
Stuff comes to us to get upset about, even if it's just thoughts. So
we're overcoming the programming of like powering through, or you need to constantly be doing or achieving, and we're coming back to our most essential part of us. Our true currency is our vibration, is our inner peace. So we cultivate that first, and then whatever after.
Yes.
So, and I just want to mention that we now have 2 amazing courses up on the internet. One is our amazing Namaste method, which is about how to have peaceful communication with your loved ones or anyone. And then we just also put up our Divine Union Dojo of Divinity, which is some of our hard-earned expansions, lessons of the Divine Union journey. And we'll put links to both of those in the episode description. But it's really exciting. They're great courses. They're really inexpensive, and there's a money back guarantee as well.
Yes, so, exactly.
Yeah, they're really great courses.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for showing up, Garganzul. I appreciate you. And thank you, Jamie and Joe and everyone else who showed up. I think Debbie also was here. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of you, and we appreciate all of you, and happy to have you. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all so much. See you soon. So much love.